doom scrolling, brain rot, mental fatigue. These are all words you might have become more accustomed to hearing over the past few years. You overhear conversations of people talking about a reel or TikTok they saw. You yourself have a few personal favorite short clips. Maybe you and your friends even reference it on occasion. These are all byproducts of what some are calling the fourth industrial revolution, the shift into an increasingly digital world. Everyone will be affected by this in some capacity, no matter the extent of your use or proximity to technology. The emergence of short-form content as a result of this revolution is one felt heavily and recently. The goal of this video is not to convince anyone to radically change their lifestyle, but rather to create awareness of this incredibly momentous time in history and explore it from all angles. Through this discourse, I hope you can reflect on the way you interact with short-form content and what it means to you. Sifting through social media, you will find a variety of different perspectives on the subject matter. There are those who enjoy the entertainment value and communication value, which could include your passive scrollers. The value seen here by these people is entirely justified. In its purest form, social media as a channel for short-form content has great potential for mass communication and self-expression. It also has comedic and entertainment value. I can think of several short-form clips I laugh at almost daily just thinking about. As Odelma de Socorro Goncalves Pintamal and Catiano de Providencia Santos Denise put it, Internet has permitted an increase in interpersonal relations. As never before, increasing communication mediated by computer technologies. There are those who see it as an economic opportunity enjoyed as a creative process, such as editors or creators. To these people, it is their passion and they find joy in creating this type of content. There is undeniable potential in this format. However, with that being said, there are also those who believe the algorithm promotes racist content and ideals. That short-form content incentivizes hate speech in exchange for likes and views. We will touch more on this later. And then there are those who think short-form videos desensitize users. This demographic are often the ones using this internet jargon as criticism of the digital status quo. It is also important to remember that the content we interact with and its availability are largely determined by socioeconomic factors. Nonetheless, there is clearly great concern from those who engage with this content of its possible degradative consequences. Regardless of your attitude on short-form media, there is one thing most of us can agree on, which is this. It's probably not going away anytime soon. As Carrie Lee Harrison phrases it in her article, The Rise of Short-Form Video Content in 2025. Be honest, how often do you sit through a full-length YouTube tutorial with a 30-second TikTok can provide you the same information? That's exactly why short-form video works. It delivers quick value without asking too much of the viewer's time. Short-form content will be the dominant mode of consuming media for a long time. Knowing this, we can strive for some median, where we can better understand all dimensions of it. Understanding that there are pros and cons to this type of content, we could retool it to be more informative and cater towards everyone's needs, as many of us who are already fond of it have realized. But first, taking a look at why maybe some people are worried can give us some insight into its nature. Despite there being potential utilitarianism in short video, there exists concern. The skepticism surrounding this new wave of content could be seen in the aforementioned slang. Brainrot was Oxford's Word of the Year in 2024. Casper Grothel described it in this quote, "It demonstrates a somewhat cheeky self-awareness in the younger generations about the harmful impact of social media that they've inherited." And Brainrot's Oxford Word of the Year by Chad Guzman. Other phrases you might see are doom scrolling, schizo-posting, terminally online, or content poisoning. To some, these just might be trendy buzzwords, but I personally believe that these are denotative of an attitude held by a growing minority across the digital landscape. Those who identify with this slang might agree in some sense that they feel their mind atrophying, and they're right to feel this way. If you are engaging with low-quality content for hours, the repercussions are very real. The article Demystifying the New Dilemma of Brainrot in the Digital Era, a review by Ahmed Mohamed Fahmy Youssef, Al-Sahid Al-Shami, Ahmed Talil, and Ahmed Hosni Saleh Matwali, actually sums up the reputation that Brainrot has gained. All of the following portions come from this paper. A finding from this article reads, college students spend an average of 7 hours per day using mobile devices for entertainment purposes, not counting time spent on them for academic purposes. Allotting this much time to low-quality content increased anxiety, stress, and depression among students. The brain being incredibly overstimulated by switching between these tasks created decreased cognitive function and increased mental cloudiness. Also from this paper, entertainment used to involve participation today, instant gratification provided by digital platforms like TikTok encourages users to seek more and more stimulating content to achieve the same level of satisfaction. The algorithm, for example, behind the For You page on TikTok encourages an endless loop of consumption, that can promote desensitization and shorten attention spans. The overstimulation of such pages' digital platforms ultimately causes one to struggle with the ability to consume larger, uncut content and further deplete meaningful involvement in real-life experiences. I quote this paper at such length because it is appropriate in the way it articulates the issues we are facing. Those who resonate with the term brainrot or doomscroll, well, unfortunately, this is exactly why. Many scholarly sources are already considering this behavior as addictive. A study by Yuhen Chen and Mingming Li, Fu Guo, and Zhusheng Wang, titled The Effect of Short-Form Video Addiction on Users' Attention, states that the results mean users addicted to short-form content videos might have more difficulties in maintaining attention and attention deficits during watching short-form videos, and impaired ability of attentional concentration for processing interference. Abuse of short-form content not only creates grueling effects for the user, but ones that are often hard to decipher. The extent of these consequences are limited by the contemporarity of brainrot, and we will only be able to begin to reflect on it going into the future. The challenges faced by these so-called doomscrollers are also ones felt by marginalized groups. The middle of the intersection between social media addiction and hateful content is where you will find these people. The internet has long been a place faced with the criticism of how it handles racism or anti-LGBTQ content. This problem has only gotten worse in recent years. The social media X has been criticized for this in the paper Structural Racism in Tech, Social Media Platforms, Algorithmic Bias, and Racist Tech, by Sophia U. Noble, Sarah T. Roberts, Matthew Bowie, Andre Brock, and Olivia Snow. Subsequent dismantling of key groups and initiatives dedicated to ensuring user protections, such as the Twitter Trust and Safety, Health, Human Rights, Election Integrity, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, Machine Learning Ethics, Responsibility and Accountability teams, all of which were concerned with eradicating racial bias in Twitter's products and creating and enforcing policies that protected users based on racial and or ethnic identity. So, not only are those who use social media having their attention span atrophied, they're being exposed to racist and hateful content without even potentially knowing it. This is not just a phenomenon on X either. So many companies followed suit after X made these internal changes. This altogether fosters a hateful environment online, making it harder for marginalized groups of both ethnic and sexual gender orientation backgrounds to use these spaces. With these policies being eliminated, the algorithm driving the short-form content is now hypothetically allowed to be more unhinged in its delivery of content. This means that racist and anti-LGBTQ attitudes are being further perpetuated online and creating a hateful echo chamber for short-form content users to slip into. Interacting with this content as a member of a marginalized group is undoubtedly very difficult. For example, look at how WNBA athletes are talked about online, or Karl Anthony Towns, who was prompted with hate for being feminine. All of this taking place under the guise of a given algorithm. Another study by Marissa Wilcox titled Algorithmic Agency and Fighting Back Against Discriminatory Instagram Content Moderation, #IWannaSeeNaomi, found a disparity in the way Black creators of a particular body type are treated on Instagram by algorithm compared to other racial groups. Instagram influencers of marginalized identities and subjectivities, for example those that are plus size or POC, often express through their social media that their content is moderated more heavily, will sometimes place blame on what they call the algorithm as a source of their feelings of discrimination. This frustration by Black content creators is warranted as they feel they have to tiptoe around the algorithm of the given platform to have any success on it, as well as the idea they're being systematically censored anyways. The biggest takeaway to get from this is that the algorithm enveloping social media addicts is also sometimes doing so with racist or anti-LGBTQ content, as well as potentially preventing that same user from seeing marginalized creators' content. Furthermore, access to short-form content can also be associated with socioeconomic status. Roughly a quarter of adults with household income below $30,000 a year, 24%, say they don't own a smartphone, according to the Pew Research Center. A study by the same organization found that some 62% of adults with a disability say they own a desktop or a laptop computer, compared to 81% of those without a disability. Both of these statistics show a digital divide persists. This shows access to short-form content can depend on your social class status, as well as on ability. There is no clear difference in how these atrophying effects transfer across demographics who do have access to brainrot as well. Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum has a quote in their article, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, What It Means, How to Respond. I am a great enthusiast and early adopter of technology, but sometimes I wonder whether the inexorable integration of technology in our lives can diminish some of our quintessential human capacities, such as compassion and cooperation. Our relationship with our smartphones is a case in point. Constant connection may deprive us of one of life's most important assets, the time to pause, reflect, and engage in meaningful conversation. I believe the key word in this quote is relationship. Now, at the beginning of this shift, before it is entirely ingrained in our society, we must learn how to foster a healthy relationship with short-form content. Attention must be brought to this media shift immediately as we creep into the fourth industrial revolution that will have great implications for the future of humanity. We are at the cusp of an entirely new world, and we must decide now what that will look like. In the paper I previously mentioned in this video, The Effect of Short-Form Video Addiction on Users' Attention, some potential solutions for the individual are posed. If you are one who considers yourself subservient to brain rot, this paper suggests to begin by practicing mindfulness training. This means attempting to block content you don't find high quality. This can mean educational, obscene, or even racist. This study also found that those addicted need more help being pulled away. So it is important to find parameters you can set to yourself to aid in cognizant consumption, i.e. screen time limit or replacing scrolling with more nurturing hobbies. Another study titled The Correlation Between Mindfulness and Problematic Smartphone Use, a meta-analysis done by Yangshu Ru Abi, Hassan Norliza, Noor Ami Yashu Burhandin, Huang Li, and Jingyi Dong, found that empirical research validates the theoretical suggestion that mindfulness, as an attribute or a state, inversely correlates with problematic smartphone use. Studies using cross-sectional and longitudinal methods have established a correlation between higher levels of mindfulness and lower levels of smartphone usage, thereby mitigating the adverse effects of such problematic smartphone use, such as reduced psychological and social well-being. Being mindful of your cell phone use takes practice, but here's something to try first. Take out your phone now if you don't have it in your hand already. Don't turn it on, just notice how it feels in your hand. Notice your emotions, your urges, your body's response as you hold it, its familiar size, shape, weight suited to your hands. Now find someone near you. Turn on your phone and mindfully notice how you feel as the screen lights up. Hand your phone to your partner. Ask yourself these questions and be honest with your answers. How did it feel when you're asked to hand your phone to someone else? How did it feel to actually hand it to them? How do you feel when you are holding your phone? After a moment, get your phone back. Take a moment and reflect with your partner on this practice. What happened for you and why did you think it did? Mindfulness is a small step to take to ally yourself with your smartphone. Now that we have discussed what you can do as an individual, let's move into a more universal, pragmatic solution. Through this research, I have found that the biggest problem is the sort of content being pushed by the algorithm. This is where it really starts. So the problem is not necessarily inherent to the formatting of short-form content. Hypothetically, by optimizing the algorithm to promote more educational content, our collective relationship with short-form content would improve, as well as eliminating any socioeconomic disparity in coverage. Honing that algorithm would create palpable solutions. A study regarding the quality of health information found in short videos titled The Content Quality and Educational Significance of Early Childhood Carries on Short Video Platforms found that the videos were long in duration and relatively rich in content. So the discern scores were positively correlated with the duration. If there was more peer-reviewed educational content available on these platforms, this could potentially counteract any zombification created by doom scrolling. This applies not just to children. More fruitful content should be available, in addition to the more entertainment-based media currently seen from content creators. Changing the scope of content available would mean clips being created from academic institutions, who would benefit from the same incentives already provided to any short-form publisher. The article, Why Short-Form Video Content is a Game Changer in Education, Attracting Students and Boosting Engagement, posted by Schutt Business, illustrates some of the benefits colleges specifically could gain from posting this sort of content too, which is humanizing the institution, highlighting unique selling points, engaging with current students, and driving enrollments through social media. So now that we've discussed how the algorithm should push more educational content, let's look at legislation potential. The closest the United States has ever come to putting restrictions in place was in 2023 with the Protecting Kids on Social Media Act, which would have put a social media ban in place for kids under the age of 13 and strict monitoring for teenagers slightly older. Another similar bill, titled Kids Off Social Media Act, would outright ban kids under the age of 13. This bill would have also, quote-unquote, seeked more transparency from the algorithm and not let it be used to solicit content to anyone under the age of 17. Other than that, most bills have been mostly about data privacy or anti-terrorism, with nothing making substantial ground. So, while it is the most detrimental to developing children, my research has illustrated that it goes beyond those ages, i.e. screen time of college kids. Short-form content does not discriminate by age. Therefore, rather than try and do any sort of strict negation beyond young children who are deemed most at risk, promote educational content and algorithm guidelines instead. One study even found, our findings demonstrate that short videos can significantly improve students' engagement by 24.7%, the median value, and their final exam score by 7.4%, compared to the long video group, which can be attributed to the reduced cognitive load, in reference to a study done on an engineering class separated into those two groups during COVID. All in all, the fight for users' attention comes down to harnessing a given platform's algorithm. To best suit the needs of all stakeholders and fairly share the real estate of the given user's homepage, we must now pass legislation that propagates a more educated internet. One that, with the reinstation of the aforementioned human rights groups and user protection groups, fairly promotes marginalized groups' content. To regulate hate speech, Kara Menke of the Greater Good magazine frames it this way. While the specific content posted on social media is protected speech, the platforms themselves are not. If these technologies function in ways that are harmful, for instance, if an algorithm routinely encourages dangerous behavior, this could be considered negligent product design. In this case, the company may be held accountable in the same way that car companies are held accountable for safety defects, or the tobacco industry was held accountable for misleading the public about the danger of cigarettes. This aptly describes how dire it is to start fixing the algorithm. Legislation is the most palpable method of fixing the situation we find ourselves in. Looking at my research and previous attempts at legislation, our bill would include these things. Number 1, an algorithm that promotes educational content being published by academic institutions. Number 2, an algorithm that promotes mindful interaction rather than doom scrolling. And number 3, stronger restrictions on hate speech and an agreed upon definition of what that entails for this point. In the same Kara Menke article, she outlines one potential solution. The Measuring Hate Speech project used a two-pronged method for assessing hate speech. First, annotators read sample social media comments and rate each comment for hatefulness. Rather than marking a comment as either hate speech or not, the annotators are asked a series of questions about each comment. These include questions about the sentiment of the comment, whether it targets a specific group or implies that one identity is superior to another, and whether it advocates for violence, among other questions. While the hypothetical bill I outlined here focuses more on the treatment of the algorithm and the quality of videos being shown, it would realistically be conjoined with a bill covering the other concerns brought upon by Americans like data privacy or anti-terrorism. This legislation hopefully would do justice to every party's concern. Content creators would still have the freedom to make whatever content they desired, of course outside of hate speech, and passive scrollers can enjoy the entertainment sides of the apps as well. At the same time, more intellectually stimulating content would be available for those who worry about the relationship to short-form content. Creating an algorithm that's best for the individual as well as the whole society would address the intersectionality felt by these social media platforms by instituting the aforementioned guidelines. The new wave of technology should bring upon hope, not tongue-in-cheek terms like brainrot or doomscroll or zombification. The way it is discussed now, something to be taken away from children. That is because while there are clear benefits, the writing on the wall is that the fixation on short-form content is often reminiscent of addiction. However, with the proper retooling, we can harness the potential of a short-form video. We must act now to create an algorithm that has us in mind, one with good intentions.